The 2026 Men's FIFA World Cup is unlike any World Cup before. For the first time, 48 teams are competing across 104 matches spread across 3 countries: Mexico, the United States, and Canada. It's the 23rd edition of the tournament and features some of soccer's biggest stars like Messi, Ronaldo, and Mbappe. Hi, I'm Haya Panjwani. On this episode of The Story Behind the AP Story, we hear from 2 AP journalists covering the tournament on the ground: soccer reporter Annie Peterson and photographer Ashley Landis. They'll talk about what it's like covering a tournament of this scale, the security, the fan atmosphere, and some of the bigger issues hanging over this World Cup.
Hi, my name is Annie Peterson, and I'm a soccer reporter for the Associated Press. I've covered 6 World Cups between men and women, and I'm based here in Vancouver, British Columbia for the duration of this Men's World Cup. This is my second trip to Canada. I also covered the 2015 Women's World Cup here.
Hi, I'm Ashley Landis, photographer for the Associated Press. I recently covered the Portugal versus Congo World Cup game.
This World Cup is different from the previous World Cups that I've covered because the field is huge. There's 48 teams competing for the first time ever, 104 matches, and it's also spread across 3 countries for the first time: Mexico, the United States, and of course Canada. This is the 23rd edition of the World Cup, which is played once every 4 years, and the tournament has always featured some of soccer's biggest names, from Pele to Maradona to this year there's Messi and Ronaldo and Mbappe. So it's always an incredible tournament, and there's incredible soccer.
World Cup games are not your typical MLS soccer games. They're a lot different, they're a lot bigger, the level of play is much higher. The fans, it's much more like an Olympic type of atmosphere. The fans are there to root for their own team, but they're also just there to enjoy the experience and have a truly international experience.
There are a lot of stories that you get to tell during the World Cup that you don't normally get to cover just in the general course of a year when you're covering soccer. For example, earlier this week, I did a story on a mother-son combination that have played in the World Cup. New Zealand has a player whose mother played in the Women's World Cup, 2 Women's World Cups. And it was the first mother-son combination that have played in the World Cup. There's been lots of men and their sons who have played in the World Cup, and lots of brothers who have played in the World Cup, but never a mother-son combination.
I think one thing you wouldn't expect about being there in person is that there are fans from all countries, not just the 2 that are playing. I think if you're lucky enough to get a ticket, you just wear whatever jersey you have just to be a part of the experience.
Yesterday was my day off, and I covered 4 stories. Today I covered a match, and I got to the stadium probably about 4 hours before game time. The reason that you have to do that is because the crowds are huge. There's also a lot of security involved in covering a World Cup. There is a lot of fans that have to go through security also, so lines are long. Once you get to the stadium, then it's kind of a hurry up and wait situation. You've already done all your homework, hopefully, so you know the teams.
It's a really unique experience being inside the stadium. It's not what you would expect. I think a lot of US fans expect soccer fans to be a little bit crazy and unruly, and that's not the case for a World Cup match. They're very, very nice. Everyone is working together. The atmosphere is very relaxed. They're very excited, of course, but it's not contentious at all. The fans were very excited at my match. It was Ronaldo's debut, and so all of the Portugal fans just couldn't wait to see him. There was a huge roar as soon as he hit the pitch.
So the World Cup is a little bit different. It's also different for the fans. In addition to the enhanced security, There are certain things that aren't allowed. You can't bring signs or banners that are larger than a certain prescribed size. FIFA doesn't like to have any kind of political symbols in the stadiums. And also, it's just, World Cups just hit different in terms of fan engagement. So when you're at a stadium, for example, the stadium I'm based at is BC Place, which is a closed stadium. So when there are goals, it's deafening. It is so loud. And today's match was a sellout, and mostly Canadian, red-clad Canadian enthusiastic fans. And when they scored that first goal, it was bedlam. It was just absolutely off the charts loud. And that's not unusual for a World Cup. It gets really loud. The fans are very enthusiastic. There are fans that follow their teams from city to city. Australia is famous for their traveling fans. So is Colombia, so is Brazil. Argentina has basically descended on Kansas City for their matches there. So it hits different than any kind of sporting event. Even the Super Bowl in the United States, it's a global phenomena.
We do a lot to prepare for these matches. We have Zoom calls that discuss logistics and technology and safety. We also go to the pitch the day before the game and test out Ethernet lines, make sure our remote cameras are working for our goal cameras. We research the teams, make sure we know who the key players are and what the story of the matchup is.
The things that are important about this particular World Cup, there are a lot of issues every time there's a World Cup, and there are always controversies. This one is particularly, there are several issues that are particularly fraught. One of them, obviously, is the visa issue in the United States and in Canada to a lesser extent. There was a referee from Africa that was denied entry into the United States. That was a big controversy. One of the other issues, obviously, is the heat. The World Cup is played during the summer, so all of the matches have hydration breaks in the first and the second halves. There have been some complaints about the hydration breaks because they break up the flow of the game, and also there has been criticism that they're just there to sell advertising. However, they instituted hydration breaks in all of the games, despite whether the temperature was high enough or not, because they said it maintained competitive balance. So if there was a hydration break in one game, there had to be a hydration break in another game. The other major issue about this World Cup is the cost. And this is something that is going to have to be reassessed after this tournament. There's been much made about the ticket prices at this World Cup. They're astronomical. And it is, cost prohibitive, for fans from Europe, from Latin America, from Asia, to come to the United States, to fly to the United States, to visit some of these cities, which are beautiful cities and some of the greatest cities in the world, but they're also very expensive cities. And then on top of that, to pay astronomical fees for the tickets. FIFA is going to have to reevaluate how the tickets are distributed and sold in future tournaments, because they're pricing out average fans, and you're going to lose some of that really neat kind of fan traveling experience that you get with Australia, that you get with Brazil, that you get with Argentina if fans are priced out of the tournament. So hoping that FIFA looks at that issue in years to come and decides that ticket prices need to be priced for the average fan.
This has been the story behind the AP story. I'm your host, Haya Panjwani. For more on the AP's coverage of the World Cup, visit apnews.com. For more episodes of this show, visit the AP News YouTube channel, our website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.